Hi everybody, Miss Foley here. Sorry I can't be there tomorrow, so here is a quick screencast to help you along with your assignment today, which is creating your own logo. First, we're going to talk really briefly about marketing, branding, and logos. And this is me trying to be brief on several subjects that I'm actually really excited and passionate about. So I'll do my best to be brief. Here we go. So today, agenda, we're going to talk through the learning goals really quick, the role and impact of marketing, and some simplified elements of logos and brands. The learning goals, what I'm hoping you'll understand from today will be, sorry, I'm going to try to shift this. Whoops. Will be, for starters, to understand the role and impact of marketing in general. We haven't talked a ton about business, although we've done many things in class that have related to business. We haven't directly talked about it that much, and we have not talked that directly about marketing. Then we're going to identify what exactly a logo is and some main types of logos, and then recognizing that value of consistent brand and why companies are so concerned with this. A general question, I'm not there to ask you in person, but what is your favorite logo right now and why? So I want you to get a logo into your mind, and we're going to try to revisit your own mental example a couple of times. So here are a few logos that I've just plugged in somewhat randomly. Various ones that either popped to my head or when I searched for certain meanings, and I will revisit them with you in a moment. But obviously Toronto Zoo, and you can see this symbol over here, which is, I believe, antlers on maybe a deer. This one is from a movement called Idle No More, First Nations movement about protecting the land and protecting waterways and fighting. It came to originated initially from four Indigenous women that really wanted to fight a certain bill that was going through government. I think it was back in 2012. But then it's become a real movement on its own, this Idle No More, and many things have gone under that umbrella. Anyhow, I very much love that symbol, a symbolic logo. Twitter, Apple, Snapchat, Microsoft. I've not explained any of these so far because I believe they're brands you know. TFC, Rockstar Video Games, Nike Swoosh, Holiday Inn, McDonald's, Golden Arches, and the Pepsi circular logo. So we'll talk about some of these. We're going to come back to some of these images in a minute. Again, please keep your own example, though, in your own mind. So just briefly, what is marketing? So marketing is basically all the activities involved in a company or in a business, whether it's profit, not-for-profit, government, non-government, any organization, any group, all activities that are involved in getting goods and services from that business, which produces them or creates them or imagines them, to the consumers who want to either purchase them or use them or be a part of them. It can go even to his most simple example of an in-school organization. Like I'm thinking there's a club at Northview called Impact, I''MPACT, Impact. And it's a group of students. Anyhow, they've done several initiatives through the year already. So they're an organization, and they actually do have their own marketing as well. They have a logo for their group. They have various flyers they put out for different activities and whatnot. So that is an example in school of marketing. So marketing, I hope you understand so far, is very, very broad, but it has two fundamental roles, and that is to sell whatever business makes and to manage that business's brand or brands. So a thinking question I wanted to pose to you and get you to start stewing about, but why would a brand need to be managed? Why does this need to be something that is dealt with or talked about? So I want you to sort of think about that critically for a moment or two. And we're going to keep going. Overall, what branding is, companies, a large company large companies obviously spend millions of dollars to develop their image and branding. The very basic branding consists of three things: the actual brand name, the logo or trademark, and the slogan for that company or that brand. Our primary focus today, we're just going to talk about logos and trademarks. So it's a combination of either company name and or special symbol associated with a product. So there's three basic types, which we're actually going to go through next. So I'm going to skip past this. Brands have an image or personality in our minds. So we're going to look through those three types again, and I'm going to actually talk about. So one is the name itself, or a monogram, stylized company initials, something that symbolizes the company, but with letters. There's visual symbols as well. It could be people, animals, things, anything that's actually associated with the company or the product. And finally, abstract symbols. They're actually the hardest to create and the hardest to communicate with people. But they're basically a visual message, but not actually representative of the actual things. And I'll show you some examples for each of these. So the monogram, you have IBM up there, which is obviously the initials of the company. They're done in a specific font. They have specific color schemes, and they're very, very consistent. Visual symbols you saw come across the screen: the Energizer Bunny, who generally thumps his drum and is a symbol of the everlasting life of an Energizer battery. And then the final one, the abstract symbol I put in here, is the Nike swoosh, arguably one of the most famous and notorious abstract symbols. Because what does the swoosh actually mean? If you just looked at that and you didn't have all the context in your head of what Nike is, you would have no concept. Like, it doesn't necessarily say to you, oh, that must be a company that makes sportwear and shoes, and there's nothing specific about it. It's completely abstract. It's not a symbol of anything else that exists in your life. It's just a symbol of that brand. Now, these ones are the most expensive to create, mostly because you've got to make a leap for consumers. Initials or letters, it's very easy to understand. Symbols of actual things in the world, or things that they make, or things that the company stands by, again, easy for people to make that leap and understand what that logo means. The abstract symbols are the hardest to build in people's minds, because you need to create that connection, which means it generally creates a need for a lot of advertising dollars, a lot of having it in people's faces. So they're actually one of the less common type of logo, but it's often what people think of when they think of logo. They often think of the abstract symbols. Again, maybe because companies spend the most amount of money. So now this concept of logo or trademark also often has legs, meaning it can go in many different directions. So a brand may have a series of elements that make their logo, either together or on their own, or have extensions of themselves. So this example on this page, I put McDonald's, not because I love the company, but because it had very easy extensions that my head went to. Up here is the creepy crown Ronald McDonald. And I don't even know if he's as familiar to you guys as he is to me, because in my childhood, this guy was so famous. And he was actually, the clown was more the image of McDonald's, even more so than the golden arches. The clown used to draw the golden arches with his fingers. They've moved away from the clown only in recent years, and it's basically because of backlash of marketing directly to children. That clown, however, still has some prominence today, and that is through this Ronald, because this character, the clown's name is Ronald McDonald. So Ronald McDonald House Charities, or Ronald McDonald Children's Charities, and you can see it's the clown's hand that's holding onto the hand of a child. Ronald McDonald Children's Charities is incredible organization, spends a lot of money to basically support. The Ronald McDonald houses are for families with kids who are in hospital, to help basically provide a space for families to be, so they can be close to their loved ones in the hospital. But there's other charity initiatives through Ronald McDonald's houses, or Ronald McDonald's Children's Charities as well. The golden arches is the most simplistic version of their logo. The most it would be considered a monogram, but it's also styled monogram. It's a specific font, specific shape of those arches. It is an M, but it is an M that means something to you. And even the color scheme, incredibly important. And then this would be one of the older, sorry, I know this is a little bit off center here. I'm going to just move this down so you can see the full McDonald's logo here. Anyhow, so that you can see has an extension. A lot of this brand has many different extensions of itself, all from McDonald's brand. So revisiting again, I'm going to move this back up. I've added actually some to this screen, but now knowing what we know about, for example, monograms, or symbols. So Twitter, the tweet being a bird is actually a symbol of a bird, helps you think about that. Stylized initials, again, monogram or stylized writing. Virgin has a very specific font and font color. Honda, the H for Honda on Honda vehicles, encased in the kind of rounded angled square, lateral anyway. Nike swoosh we already talked about as an abstract. Rockstar, computer games, video games, it has the R but also has the star. So it's got a stylized initial as well as a symbol combination. TFC, you recognize the T, and as you know from that one, I could show you a whole extension of that. This is just the T with the stripes, and you recognize it. If it were in more of a crest of the TFC, if it were with the FC, you'd recognize all of them to be the same brand. Holiday Inn, stylized H, but also with the text writing below. Pepsi, this circle is generally with the Pepsi name, but it doesn't have to be. It's recognized on its own again. So these are all different. Oh, and this one I love. So this Idle No More, because this symbol, it has so much symbolism in this logo. The holding of the sort of representation of First Nations with the feather. The strong-fisted arm and hand in the air is about the Idle No More and the strength of the movement. Even right down to the color choices, all had very strong meaning within the Idle No More movement. Okay, so I've talked about several of these. Snapchat, obviously there's nothing on here actually about a photograph. It is almost like a, I don't know, funny shape. So it's a bit more of an abstract symbol, but it's recognized enough brand that it's got enough recognition to do an abstract logo. So after seeing all of these and kind of applying those different thoughts, I now want you to think about how you would maybe create your own logo. So what would your own logo be? Consider including what matters to you. So I talked a lot about symbolism, everything from font choices here, color choices. It all has meaning. It all comes from something. It's all trying to portray a certain image or a certain importance. So consider what font to choose, what colors do you want, what symbols would be in your logo. But also please consider simplicity. The other thing that's common with all of these logos, almost all of them could easily be converted into a black and white image and you would still get the basis of it. You have very simple images. And if there is font, it's generally very simple to the point font. You're not looking for a super complex image because it's harder then for the brain to connect it with something specific. Be thoughtful in your creation because you will need to explain your logo and your design choices. So this is an example I put together. I started with a symbol of my career as a business and accounting teacher. So I started with a calculator. I did this series of logos. So these would not be a logo altogether. Each individual one would be an aspect or an element of a logo. I chose a calculator, image of a calculator I found online, but I built it as my own shape. So I got that Google Draw and I did the tracing around. I didn't like the number of buttons on the other one, so I redesigned the buttons on mine. And in the display, I put my name Foley, but I chose a specific font that looked sort of blocky and like it could almost be on a calculator, but a little bit more character than generally would be on limited to a true calculator screen. Anyhow, so that's where I started from. But what I didn't like about this was, so I chose the font I already said to mimic a block font on a calculator. But I didn't love this singular focus because frankly, I don't think of myself just as an accounting teacher, and just being a calculator is kind of felt boring and limiting. So then I took that initial, the first initial of my last name, and I put it on a sheet of paper and thought more simplistic logo. What about just a big F on a sheet of paper? It seemed more representative of a teacher, just on a piece of paper. Although the letter F on a piece of paper for a teacher may have negative connotations. Anyhow, that's where I kept the font consistent, but I still didn't love it. You can see I've kept it this color scheme, but because this seemed too simple and almost a little bit negative, I found this